more today than we normally do. So just, you know what, buckle yourselves, get ready. It is on. All right. Now, I've been getting a lot of notifications from people, a lot of stuff on Instagram primarily, and messages on LinkedIn where people are saying, "Oh, Amazon's splitting their stock. I'm ready to go and throw some thousands of dollars at Amazon stock," right? And people don't understand that the shares that are available to the general public are completely different from the shares that are available to astute investors. I'll put it that way, in a nice way. The shares that Goldman purchases are different shares from what you or we or anyone else is seeing on the traditional markets as a picking phone, looking at I don't know, Robinhood or anything like that. So I want to first address this because it would appear that people just have not been listening. It would appear that people just aren't paying attention. Okay, there was a company not too long ago in the technology sector that also had a stock split.
Correct. Google split 20-1.
Google split 20-1. The year prior, the year before that, another company split, and that company was Apple. Okay, and what ticks me off is that so many people claim that they're investors. And again, if you want to invest in the stock market, we're not that. We're just saying that don't put all your eggs there. But what upsets me is people who play in different markets and don't do enough research. One thing you have to do in the stock market is you have to understand how to read financial statements.
Correct.
You got to understand how to read. Oh, sorry. Again, a lot of people are talking about the whole Amazon thing. Put this in silent real quick. All the notifications.
While you're doing that, but here's something that I thought, and we talked about it last week or the week before at a session where we said the question is who owns the stock market, and the top 10% of people own 89% of the market. So this stock split, no matter how many it is, it's 11% of the market that we will be chasing with common stock. Okay.
What kind of stock?
Common. These are the cheapest stock. The cheapest you can buy. These guys. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, these big guys, they have preferred stock. They get paid first if something happens.
Absolutely.
And they don't worry. They don't worry.
So real quick, let me tell you guys what you're missing, what you're not really understanding when we're talking about this whole stock thing, right? And Hank is 100% right, as naturally, right? There are different types of stock. Now, if you go to what is this, Forbes Advisor, whatever, you have common stock, you have stock, you have Class A and Class B, you have low cap, mid cap, small caps. All right. Now here's the thing: all those other mumbo jumbo IPOs, all right, IPO stock, preferred stock, and those are things that people see the most, and they're different, guys. They're different. So what's happening is John is going to have a stock split of 20. What that means is that let's say on a small frame, I have a whole pizza. I have 8 slices of pizza, and that entire pizza pie is worth $10.
Bring it on. I see it. Come on, bring it on.
Let's say $8, make it $1 each slice. Okay.
Yeah.
I then say, listen, this pizza is the best pizza, $1 a slice. You got to come get this, right? And it's 1/8. I then go ahead and cut each slice of those half.
Mm-hmm.
I still pay what? A
$8. A
dollar,
dollar slice. Yeah. Right. Okay.
dollar slice. So now the guy that was worth $8 is
Yeah.
now worth $16. Nothing
Is it
has
worth
changed.
is it worth 16, or is it still worth 8, but we're paying 16 for it? Because
Still
the
worth, it's still worth 100%
yeah,
right. It's still worth $8 because I've cut those slices in half. I want to make the market pay 16 for it.
right.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is what stock split.
Yep.
The difference here is that Amazon is doing it, and they're making and they're splitting it into 20s. This is and all this really is this is a way for a public company to raise capital, to raise money
Say that
for the
again,
general.
please.
This
Could
is
you
how
could you
a public company
mm-hmm.
raises capital, raises
Yeah.
cash money from the general public. What does this mean?
What?
This would mean
Uh-huh.
that the existing investment group, the Goldman Sachs on the board, the Saudi Arabian Prince who's on the board, co-founder, the family office, and all these other entities that are at board that own the original shares of the company. That means that at some point this year, the board members said, "Hey, we're not investing more money into the company at the moment."
Correct.
And so the company, the CFO, hey, we would still raise some money from capital. It could have been an acquisition. It could have been to relocate headquarters. We don't know. But they came together and said, hey, how can we still raise capital that we need for this next phase for the business?
Let me throw a curve. Let me throw a curve in this dynamic for you. I just, again, I keep having these epiphanies, Leland, and in talking with you, you bring them out. Here's something else to consider. These mega companies are already turning billions in profit every year. So when they're making that kind of money in profit, my question to you, listeners, is why would they need to raise more capital?
Say it one more time. I'm not sure
Okay.
these guys are getting it.
I mean, they got trucks load of cash because they're making profits hand over fist. Why would they need to have a stock split to come after some more of your money? Well, you said, well, I already got 100 shares, so that's going to split 20 to 1, so I got all these shares. What is the dollar value of those shares? Because the value that 100 shares you had, say you had them at $300 a share, your investment was $3,000. How much is the investment now? $3,000. How many shares you got? Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to make certain that we understand what we're getting, what we're hearing. Okay. Because we hear one thing, but I need you to sit back and say, wait a minute, why would they be doing that? And the inference is, hey, I'm going to get a whole bunch more shares. If my value didn't increase, I don't give a crap if you gave me 1,000 shares. Okay? If when they split, the price per share goes down, y'all.
Okay.
It's,
but hey,
yes, sir.
Even if you didn't understand the basic financial education in reference to financial statements, so I know that that's not always something that's taught in college, right? And you have to take those classes, and that's okay. I want to help you the best that I can. Even here's what you could do: you could Google, and right here, 15 hours ago, CNBC has a headline that Amazon announces 20-for-1 stock split. 10 billion. What's that word? What's the last word there, Hank? 10 billion what?
I'm looking at 10 billion buyback.
Buy what?
Buyback.
Buy what?
Buy back, meaning they're gonna take some shares out of the marketplace.
So by them splitting that pizza, right? By them cutting that pizza into multiple slices, giving smaller, but still giving it the same purchase price to the market per slice for less, they're going to get 10 billion. Now, why would you need to gain an additional 10 billion of cash immediately? Why would you need to do that?
I think, and I see as I look on here, and I'm gonna hold that thought. I see Apple and Tesla having splits. The chip makers is having. Listen, this is the time of year that these big companies start to shed tax implications. This is when they are paying big bonuses to folk. And this is when they're setting their sales for the new year, their global plan. They're doing all of that not by creating additional expenses for the company. They're doing that by increasing the revenue. They're doing that by increasing the revenue, the value that you and I bring to the table for them. Okay. So if they wanted to do something, okay, they could, rather than do a stock split, they could give you 20 shares at the current price, and then you will know whether or not they really like you or not.
Wait.
And Leland, in my mind, I see some type of collusion. All these big guys are doing splits. Now, part of it, now that, and you and I were talking about the whole inflationary problem or situation. I won't call it a problem. It's the situation. There are ebbs and flows. And I was reading an article, and it may have been from CBC, CNBC. It could have been from somebody. And this is what they said. This person said, he said, there's too much money in circulation. So how do these companies help to siphon off some of this money in circulation? It's not that we're paying $4.25 for a gallon of gas or $4 for a dozen eggs. It's not that. Okay. People for the last couple of years, those who had some money, have been sort of kind of watching, being a little bit careful, not being so impulsive and or compulsive in their purchasing of stuff. So I would just say, Leland, with everything that's going around us constantly, because there are always a man coming around with a little ice cream truck, and and the kids hear this little song, this little jingle, and they be dashing out to get themselves an ice cream sandwich or a popsicle or something that now costs maybe $2 and it used to be 25 cents. The point I'm making is it's the same product, it's the same size, it's the same, but it's a higher price. So when these companies are doing stock splits, they're trying to entice us to buy more shares of stock. But again, the size is still an 8-inch or 12-inch pizza. The size of the pie didn't change for you and me. Okay? The bottom line changes for the company.
That's right.
So
I'm not sure if someone wants to invest in the stock market, we're able to do that, right? We're just saying understand finance. That's what I put it without being condescending or rude. Understand basic finance. Understand that whenever you have a stock split, what's happening is that that's the company's way of, and by the company raising money, what they are doing then is they're putting that on their bottom line. They put it on the bottom line, and what they're doing is they're trying to prop up the company when sales are actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When Apple had their use a couple of years ago, Apple's sales were actually down. And before Apple had that stock split, if you actually read their financial, which you can read everyone's financial statements, guys.
All the public companies.
Right. When you read their financial statements, so that their actual sales were declining.
Mm-hmm.
Their sales were declining. So the way to ensure that the overall quote unquote growth on paper for the company would continue to have the trajectory up, they did and started buying their own shares. After they bought up more of their shares that were market, they then hit them with the same exact shares as stock as a way to wrap up from the general public.
Leland, you just said something. You struck another nerve. In December of 17, Congress passed a new tax law. And, they said everybody would benefit. The major corporations did a tremendous debt buyback, okay, and which made themselves wealthier because they were buying back shares of stock. So it's sort of an accordion. They need money. Sales are down. They need money. They do a stock split, or they promote selling more stock. Things are going good. They don't want to be paying a whole bunch of taxes. They're in the sweet spot. Okay, they're flush with cash. Some of them invest in other companies, but what they do is they buy back debt. So this 20-for-1 split this year, they may buy back 19 billion, 19 million shares of stock back. Okay?
Yep.
So as a result of that, then each share of stock in subsequent years will go from 5 cents a share to 75 cents a share. They just made 50%. If it goes to 100, if it goes to $1 a share, they made 100%.
That's correct. And so I want to do something real quick to help people a little bit more to understand what we're talking about. So, and then again, you want to check this, go right ahead. It's literally in front of your face.
Please do.
Yeah, please do. So it's letting you know that, hey, when Snapchat, their IPO price was $17 a share. Okay, so in other words, when it was released to the market, per share was $7. Okay. Now, if you do research, if you look statements, if you look a little further than most, what you'll find out, and this is how 90% of the states on the stock exchange. Okay. What actually happens is every bank, and real quick, I mean, just think about it, guys. All the huge banks that you know of, how do you know how they make money? Goldman Sachs, Morgan, Deutsche, Credit Suisse.
Don't they make it by lending money, Leland?
Full jive, okay? Well, that's part of it. They make money by lending, but I am how they fully.
Not to you and me. I was just being facetious.
Oh, not to no. So if this is a bar graph of their income right here, this amount, this small amount is them actually lending money.
That's right.
This is how it's actually do is. So, for example, let's say I wanted to take Hank and Company, Hank and Co. I wanted to take Hank and Co. Okay? What I would have to do is I would present Hank and Co. to investment banks and get them to underwrite Hank and Company. and they would give their own value. They would give it a value based on its EBITDA. So you guys don't know what that is. EBITDA stands for earnings before taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Okay, so that means they would take the EBITDA and then they would multiply it based on the entry that it's in. Now, an EBITDA, like a company can have an EBITDA of $2,000. EBITDA is not profit because profit is profit. EBITDA is exactly that, earnings before all those other deductions. Okay.
Funny math.
Yes. This is basic math. So let's say the EBITDA is $2,000, but let's say that it's a technology company, so therefore its multiple is like a 30x multiple. In other words, for every $1 of EBITDA, you would multiply that dollar by 30. And that would give it its value. Like financial companies is somewhere between 30 to 40x. Okay, so if you have a finance company, let's say the finance company only is profitable for $1, multiply that by 40. Okay, that's what Quicken Loans is, for example. So here's the deal: after Morgan Stanley and Company, after Goldman underwrites the company, after JP Morgan underwrites the company, those companies underwrite it. They give it a certain value, and then they buy shares based on the value that they gave it before.
Hang on. I'm slow sometimes. So you're saying, what I think I heard you say is usually these already large, gargantuan investment banks, they all get together and they play in this IPO process.
Before it hits the market, before it goes to the stock, all of these investment banks have purchased tens of thousands, if not millions, of shares of these companies at IPO price. Meaning
go ahead. Okay.
No. If they gave it a value of, say, $30 per share, but they bought in at a share, or in some cases, 50 cents per share.
Let me say something, y'all. My math may be off, but if they evaluate a stock at 30%, 30 times its value of $2, and you buy it for $60, it's still a $2 share. It's still a $2 share that you're paying now $60 for. Okay. So we're buying an in my opinion, I'm just a simple man from Virginia. We're paying an inflated price. Leland, don't smack me. I'm going to say for a non-existent asset, because if this company is not including, yes, sir.
You're 100% right, because here's what happens. So first off, these are buying at pennies on the dollar. All right. When the company goes public, and just think about this, people. Just think about it. Like really think about it. When your favorite company goes public on the market, if the entire market consumed, as in buys, goes crazy and buys all these shares, right? They're buying all these shares. Mathematics. Think about it from a pie perspective. Think about pizza slice. If the entire economy goes crazy and buys all these shares, mathematically, what should happen is that over time, the founders of that company will be over time own less and less of it, right? That's basic mathematics. It's weird that people don't even think about that. But the reason that never happens, the reason that Zuckerberg's shares aren't evaporating as people are buying and selling Facebook every single day, or the reason that those shares aren't fluctuating as buying more shares is because you're not buying the company's actual shares when it hits the market. See, when it hits the public market, shares you're buying from are all the underwriters that you see here. You're buying small Stanley. You're buying small shares of William Blair and Company. You're buying small shares from UBS Securities. You're buying small shares from SunTrust Bank. You're buying small shares JMP Securities. That's where you're buying the shares from. And when you're buying those shares, it's already evaluated at an EBITDA. You don't believe me? Do some research. Look it up. This is the EBITDA. This means that for advanced medical equipment and technology companies, that the EBITDA is 36.66. I'm gonna round it up to 37. Okay, for every $1, if you have a technology company, EBITDA, this is not profit. This is EBITDA. EBITDA and profit are two different things, guys. For every $1 of EBITDA, you're gonna value that company at $37. Period.
Wow.
That's how it works. And to make matters worse, here's the thing that's funny about that whole scenario. To make matters worse, we all think that when you sell, think about this. How is it that Bob can own 1,000 shares of, let's say, Chevron, okay? And in a moment's notice, Bob is able to sell 1,000 shares of Chevron at the flip of the switch. That would have to mean that there were already existing contracts with specific price ranges already available in liquid, already available to capture, purchase, and sell for those shares. Who do you think sets make it automatic? It's not someone named John in Florida. It's not Rubio in Japan. It's Morgan Stanley. It's Goldman Sachs. They're buying back those same shares that were already theirs in the very beginning.
So
that's what keeps the market.
So when I've heard people say, and they talk about, you listen to the congressmen, men and women sit around the table and they say, well, the system is rigged. Yeah, it's rigged, but it's rigged in their favor, not your and my favor. Because there's no way one person, not one person, not even the Presidente of the United States or the President of the world, can keep tabs on all of the moving parts of an economy or society. So we put people in places to try to keep the ship from sinking. And Leland, you and I were talking about inflation. Inflation is having an impact on Amazon on their 20-to-1 split. There may be some other things going on, or Google or somebody. So they are.
Hey, we know exactly what's going on. You know what's going on? Think about this, you guys. Seriously, this is perfect because gas prices are through the
roof.
Amazon makes majority of its money by doing what?
Moving stuff.
Oh. So that it's impacting their operating expenses?
Yes.
Yes. Do you think that Amazon already has arranged agreements with the United States Postal Service on shipping their parcels?
And airlines and everything else. Whomever ships their stuff, yes.
It's already pre-written contracts on the price, the ranges, and the time. A lot. Those are set prices. They're locked into those contracts, so they need the capital.
They are locked in on a contract on the manufacturers of the goods and the products that they are selling to you and me. They're not going into a store and buying off the shelf. They buy in bulk from the manufacturer somewhere in China and Japan and Philippines and Indonesia in South Vietnam and whatever, okay? To make certain that you and I can play with a doll every now and so often, or a toy, or watch a TV, okay?
Yeah.
So they're continuing to make certain that whatever our needs are, perceived or otherwise, are being satisfied. But they create, I'm going to stretch this and see who catches it. They create the need that you and I participate in. They do test marketing and test surveys and taste scenarios, all of this other stuff. And we go in and we buy the cookie, we buy the shoes, we buy the handbag, we buy all of that other stuff. Again, I said before, stuff you with money you don't have to impress somebody you don't like. Leland, I was reading something last week and it says that the price of new cars, not price of new cars, sticker price, is 12 to 15% higher than they were a year ago. Now, a crazy thing is there are people, prices already inflated. There are people who are paying higher than sticker price for a car.
Yeah.
People are paying higher than asking price for a house. But we have this false sense of need. I need to buy this. And just because you can afford or not afford to buy it, the point is, do you need it? And that's when our wants exceed our needs.
Absolutely.
You know. So anyway, so buy shares. Be happy. Buy shares. But
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
we all need to recalibrate.
Let me and let me show you guys this again. Everything I'm showing you, I mean, we know, I mean, by now, at least I'm hoping you guys understand.
I hope.
I hope. I hope.
I hope.
But again, to show again how this works. This is only a few of many companies on the stock market that are operating at a loss. Now you can look on the column here, net loss. Now, Hank, what a net means, like a net profit and a net loss? Can you tell people that maybe you don't understand how that works, what a
Is
net
the
is?
bottom line. Net loss. You've paid all your bills, you've collected all your money, and at the end of the day, you in the hole.
All right. So that's the net loss. Now, I want you guys to think about this very, very closely. As a matter of fact, let's use something that most people don't know about. AMC, okay?
Mhm.
The company, movie theaters, et cetera, et cetera. All right. The sector it has AMC under is communication. Okay. Communications. Just think about that for a minute. We'll go over here. You guys can see this. See, many of us would say, oh, well, AMC is a movie theater, right? But the industry that AMC has chose to have themselves labeled under is communications is a 15.5 EBITDA multiplier, not profit multiplier, EBITDA multiplier. Let me show you guys exactly how this rolls out. This right here, this loss, this is in what, Hank? It says in
It's a net loss in operations.
net loss operations in millions, guys.
Mm-hmm.
In millions. So it says that a 12-month net loss and negative 2007, multiply that by millions, and that's going to be over $1 billion. So $2.7 billion of a loss. Now, think about this. AMC negative $2.7 billion of a loss, meaning that they're beyond a zero. They didn't break even. Okay,
they below, yeah, they below zero. Yeah,
below zero.
yeah.
Their stock price is what? $15.
Yeah.
How stock price $15 yet? And I'll go back to this. Isn't it ironic that the price is $15, but the industry multiplier is 15.5? No, that's because that's how the stock made. Because their can be $1. Their EBITDA can be literally $1, and they're going to get a stock value of $15.55.
Wow.
This, and what's so funny is, think just this. Before Facebook went public, how much money Facebook was making? Facebook wasn't making money.
They were in the hole.
Money until they entered into the advertisements. Because remember, everyone who has Facebook, do you pay for Facebook?
You pay for Google search engine? No.
No. Those companies weren't making any money advertising.
Monetizing stuff. Ooh.
Yeah. That meant for decades for Google, half a decade for Facebook, that there was no profit. Money that they received at that time frame were investors. Much like the social media platform Snapchat. Snapchat doesn't charge you to log into the system. So the money that Snap had gained before it went public, it came from investors. We have this written as underwriters here, or CNBC has written as underwriters. But when these underwriters purchase shares, they become investors.
Leland, I thought I knew a little bit, but in talking with you today, I realized that I didn't know squat. I'm just sitting here because I'm like most folks. I've played in the market, not me personally. I go to a financial planner, financial advisor, go to something. I had IRAs and yada 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 yada. Someone else is investing my money in AMC, in Google, in Amazon, whatever companies are private, and I have no say, very little say, as to how my money is being invested by somebody who doesn't even know my name. And that's part of the system we live in. I'm not, I might be lamenting, but that's the system we live in. And I'm saying that as an individual, you're not savvy enough, you're not smart enough, you're not connected enough, you're not rich enough to play that game. So, Leland, what I did was I found some people that I trusted and I got some information. And then I used the Google search engine to go out and try to become educated on whatever it is that I thought I wanted to do or not want to do. And I was doing some work with a friend of mine last week, and we were sitting down chatting because I had heard something the week before, and I was discussing it with him. And I said, I want to do that. And that friend grabbed my hand and said, I will show you how this works. Now, I had a choice. And that choice was be willing to learn from someone who has been there and done that, or continue to do research until I thought I knew what I was doing, or continue to sit on my butt. because we all have a choice. But at one day, as we were saying the other day, at some point you're going to choose. You're going to have to choose do or do not. And when that responsibility is on you and on you alone, don't be pointing fingers at somebody and said, well, I wish I had listened. Again, I've said my dad had a third grade education, but he was brilliant. And he told me with a third grade education, son, I hope you get to a point in life where you say, I'm glad I did, rather than I wish I had. Okay? So I'm saying, hey, listen, if you want to throw some more money at Google or some more money at AMC, if you want to do that, I want you to consider one thing that my dad taught me. He said, again, third grade education. You said third grade education. How could he be brilliant or intelligent with a third grade education? There's a difference between education and intelligence. And oftentimes we get people who got an education and they think they're intelligent. But my dad said, be careful what you wish for. And when you decide, be willing to go all in. However, keep a mind out for variations and deviations in the process. Because if you need to stop, stop. But you know what happens to most of us, Leland?
What's that?
We're investing $100, $500, $1,000, $2,000 a month through some investment source, and we just keep pumping money into it, hoping that that vehicle will get us to the land of our dreams, to the land of milk and honey, and that's not necessarily so. Okay, and I can't trust my own instincts. I need to come along somebody who's better at certain things than I am, and then be grateful that one, that someone is willing to help, teach, inform, and that two, that I'm clever enough, savvy enough, smart enough, intelligent enough to say I can use the help. And I know they're saying, well, what does this have to do with investments? Investments have to do with life, and I was just talking to you about life.
There's one. There's one more thing I want us to switch before we get off.
You sure they're going to be able to handle all this today, Leland? But let's go ahead. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I want to make sure that we circle back in reference to foreclosure. Okay. To you who don't know, tonight we do have a live training, and we're going to actually walk you all through how to properly invest in foreclosures, the opportunity that's available, and ultimately how you can help others, not have a negative impact with foreclosures. So this is a study by Stanford, and really interesting. So, as you imagine, when it comes to foreclosures, it can have a lot of negative impact. A lot of negative impact when it comes to homeowners.
The individual you're referring to, or the process?
The homeowner.
The person. Okay. And why is that? Why do you think that is, Leland?
Large reason for this negative impact is when someone goes through the foreclosure process, and let's say that unfortunately they're foreclosed upon, right?
Mm-hmm.
It will discourage them going forward and wanting to again go for that dream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What it also does is in many cases, it will lower the value of other homes or comparables around it.
Mm-hmm.
If that's done in a longer set period of time, it will impact negatively the surrounding schools or the school system in that area.
Yeah, that's true.
And then because of it would then have a negative impact on the education that is received from those children.
That's true too.
The negative
That's true too.
impact on the kids will eventually deter others wanting to achieve their financial goal.
Wow. Leland, I'm hearing about the impact on the neighborhood, the community, the town, the county. Um, and I think there is a system, a process in place to correct any negative impacts that happens. But could we flip it to the other side, please, for just for a moment? The human aspect of someone who is facing foreclosure. And it didn't just happen at the snap of a finger. It's a process that's been going on. So the devastation on the community is financial, but the greater devastation is mental or emotional on the person. So I know these smart guys are always looking at it in the sense of economics, and I'm just sitting here, and it doesn't matter whether you're losing a house or a car is repossessed or you lost a job or what have you. There's a price or there's a cost to that I think too often we leave out of the equation, and I'm not being melodramatic. It's just that I think more large corporations that we talked about, and you've heard me mention the whole idea of humanity before. Somewhere along the line, humanity has taken a backseat to profit or profitability, and I don't know how we can get back to that. Um, we talk about how bad inflation or foreclosures are, and we're talking about of the high price of home. But for since the early '90s, there are people in our society who were getting $7.35 an hour. Now there are those who will call me a dinosaur. There are those who will call me a progressive. There are those who will call me a communist. There are what have you. But I would venture to say the majority of the people who are listening to us or who will view this make a hell of a lot more than $7.35 an hour. And those individuals who are making $7.35 an hour cannot afford a 250,000. No, it's the average cost of an average price now is $383,000. So these people can't afford a home. They can't afford to pay rent on an apartment. I mean, there's a lot that they can't do. And I think we as a society need to find a way. Foreclosures, now interest rates are between three and. You remember me telling you how much I paid, how what the interest rates were for the first house I bought?
Oh yeah.
13 and a quarter. And we think and again, I'm not making light of our situation. We think it's light now that it's 3 to 4%. I could not find a mortgage for less than 13%. Okay. So we're going to try to help people tonight to just understand that there are pros and cons, benefits um, to be derived. There are advantages and disadvantages of the process. But I'm talking emotionally for you to say, if you are on that track, we can help. If you know someone who was on that track, we can help. Okay? And you have to be willing to admit that you are in over your head and find some help on the front end because you might be saved. Because the bank, the mortgage company, is not losing a dime when you go into foreclosure. And with that, Leland, I'm going to get off my soapbox.
Your soapbox is fine here. Um, Something to laugh about closing, make it a little lighter, or I guess depending on what you think. So not too long ago, and it's something called the 10-year challenge. And so basically what they're saying is that hey, in 2012, this home was going for 150,000, where the minimum wage is $7.25. In 2022, 10 years later, this same home is going for $550, and where the minimum dollars and 25.
More than 300%.
Yep. Yep. So
And that's the sad part about it. The only thing that has not remained, I mean, minimum wage is the only thing that has remained constant for 30 years. And here's the crazy thing. It never increased for the cost of living. It never increased for inflation. But everything else but minimum wage ebbed and flowed with inflation, deflation. We didn't go into deflation or the environment. Okay, it ebbed everything. And what I learned that was shocking is that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce went to Congress and lobbied Congress not to increase minimum wage because they felt that um, paying for the salaries or for wages for their employees would have been difficult. And those same SOBs went from making maybe $1 million a year to making 250 million and getting all sorts of stock options and bonuses at the behest of the everyday person. So I used to talk about fairness in the system. There is no fairness in the system, and that's why I believe in term limits. And if I had the power, I would send a lot of those individuals in Congress home and put some young people, not new people in, that are not jaded by their own bias and greed. I know we were talking about foreclosures. I'm sorry. I get on these diatribes sometimes, but it's just
So we'll hit it on this, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're having a live training in reference to foreclosure investing. This is how you can actually help homeowners and other property investors to actually stay away from their property going into auction. And by you doing so, you also build your portfolio, build your wealth, and also gain passive success.
There's hope. That's what you're telling us, Leland.
There is hope. There is hope.
There's hope. There's hope.
Just go to assetbuildersclub.com/invest foreclosure.
And I would just say, please, I apologize for getting on my soapbox today. But just sit back and if you can find fault in the facts, just let me know. I will humbly apologize. But if our facts are correct, come join us. I think you'll have fun too, because you'll get the chance to interact with us like one on one or however many people show up. And I would love that. I would really, really love to meet you, and we just sit down and have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or a glass of water.